Hello, dearest listeners. Welcome back. This is the Meat and Monogamy podcast. I am your gracious host, Olivia Lara Owen, also known as Liv to many of you. And this is a long form podcast. This is where we speak about all things nourishment, devotion, building a life where you trust yourself, and really building a life where you can be sustained and held. And I really speak directly to women. My work is very much focused on women, but I am never upset if beautiful men find this work and you find something that resonates with you. So welcome all of you. Welcome my dearest listeners. I am recording today. I'm very excited for my location. And I was like, I have to make a podcast while I'm here. I'm dog sitting in the most gorgeous dream farmhouse in rural Buckinghamshire in the UK. And I'm looking after a gorgeous pup and a couple of chickens and a beautiful house. And it's really having me think about my dreams for the future and some of the big desires that I have for the life that I'm building and what I want for my family. So I am here sending you this beautiful dispatch from the farmhouse, and it's also my birthday week. I have turned 35 this week, and it feels like a bit of a midlife threshold moment to turn 35. I always feel happy to celebrate my birthday. I'm a big birthday person, particularly because it really gives the opportunity to connect with people I love. Like, that is the thing I love the most about birthdays. It's celebrating with people. It's the opportunity to, mark the turn of the age and, be generous. And it's also a time of receiving and love. And so I've just had the best few weeks, and I have a few more things planned. So we are not slowing down over here. And I'm not going to speak about this today, but if you're interested in kind of what I'm thinking about around my birthday, it's I'm moving from one theme to the next. So I always set a theme every time I was going to say increase in age. Every time I get a year older, I set a theme. And last year, my theme was the year of fertility. And this was about shifting my embodied relationship to fertility to one where it was letting go of the kind of conditioned way of understanding what fertility is, which is like, can you get pregnant or not? And it's very outcome based, and moving into more of a feminine and more what I would say is my natural orientation that I've had to relearn as I debunk some of the things I feel like I've been given. Growing up in quite a masculine culture, I am definitely a bit of a changed woman on the end of this 34th year into my 35th year. So I have wrote a piece on my Substack it's called 35 and Fertile, if you want to read more about what I'm thinking about around and what I learned in my year of fertility. And to just summarize it, really, it was about like living in a state of fertility, not about whether you can get pregnant or not, whether I can get pregnant or not, really in embracing and expanding my definition of fertility being about access to life force and being in a state of aliveness and being in a state where life force is available. And that is to fuel my ideas, my creativity, my sexuality, my relationships, my life, and the life that I want to build. And the life that I have been building. So I am really glad that I chose that theme, and so many things happened in my 34th year. It was a very life-changing year. And there was a lot of kind of quiet moments, which I will speak about in this theme, the topic of today's episode. The theme I've chosen for 35, just to name it, so you have it, is Raindrops Make Oceans. So I'm moving from the year of fertility to, and really it was like fertility as a state of being. I think that was the theme. And then the new theme is Raindrops Make Oceans. And this is inspired by an amazing woman I've been working with this year. around money, but it's really broader than that. It's really also about how these small steps are so much more meaningful at building the ocean. Like the raindrops, the trickles, the small things, the small little pitter patter, the small steps we take that are maybe more quiet, more subtle, are actually the ones that are the most powerful. So that is the theme of life right now. So I will keep you posted. And if that resonates with you and you're like, I want to know a bit more about that, always feel free to send me a message on whatever platform you're engaging with me on. And as always, if you're loving this podcast, please subscribe if you're a Spotify listener. And if you are an Apple listener and you love it enough and you're like, I want to leave a review, that is where you can leave a review. And it's really great to help us over here at HQ reach more people, reach more amazing women that would really benefit from hearing some of the beautiful musings and wisdom we are sharing on this pod. Okay, without further ado, let's get into today's topic. So today I'm going to be speaking about the difference between intensity and nourishment. Okay, so intensity and nourishment. This is an important one because, like I'm sure many of you relate to, I find intensity extremely compelling. I just love it. Intensity feels like movement. Intensity has energy behind it. It's like intensity feels like something is happening, and that something is big, right? So we can be in intensity and we're making big decisions, we're ending things, we're starting things, we're having big conversations, and they're very intense. And there's a sense of momentum. There's a sense that, something is happening, okay? And for a lot of women, myself included, and especially the kinds of women that I work with, some of you listening, this feeling of momentum can really become associated with growth. And if you don't have it, you start thinking something is wrong, okay? So if you're like, if I'm moving, I'm progressing. If it feels big and like, bells and whistles, it must be the right thing, okay? And so we sort of train ourselves that life can only progress in this really intense way. Otherwise, we're not really progressing at all. And I would say that this is such a trap because intensity is not the same as nourishment. And intensity doesn't actually sustain us in the way that nourishment does, okay? So this has been something that I have worked with women on for years, like shifting into a more nourished way of living, relating, creating, knowing themselves. It's incredibly powerful. It is not an overnight job. It does take time to start shifting into a more nourished way of being. What I have seen is intensity really, really masks dysregulation. Okay, so what do I mean by that? This is where, okay, as an example, often a lot of intensity, and like think about, maybe if you can't recognize this in yourself, maybe you recognize this in other people, or maybe you're listening and like, this is 100% me. Like, I do love my intense bitches. Like, I know I know you're out there. And so maybe this is speaking directly to you today. And if it is, I think you're going to get some helpful nugs from what I'm about to say. So intensity can be a response to discomfort. So what I find is if you can't tolerate uncertainty, you will make a decision very quickly. Okay. So maybe something feels off and you're like, I need to overhaul absolutely everything, right? Or you feel disconnected and you create some kind of intense movement just so you can feel something again. Like you don't trust the feeling of when intensity is not around, okay? So intensity gives you some kind of relief. And this relief you might be feeling is not actually the same as being clear and having clarity about something, okay? And it can often get a bit confused. And what I find is over time, you start to notice that like, these big moves you're making aren't actually creating stability. They kind of have diminishing returns because they ask so much of you. And when you're in a constant cycle of like big moves and then recovering from the big moves, you just end up creating like the same cycle over and over again. Okay. And it's tricky because we actually get a lot of cultural conditioning here. And this is a little bit where we can easily get stuck. So we live in a world that really rewards this. It rewards intensity, big leaps, radical changes, like burning things down, starting again. What we rarely celebrate is staying, pacing yourself, doing the same thing consistently, buying like, like kind of building slowly, like learning a craft and getting the thousands of hours of reps that's required to do it well and properly and robustly. And like, there's very little external validation for nourishment. Like people sometimes can look at you like, what are you doing? And so it can feel like you're doing something wrong when you choose it. Right. So for me, nourishment is much quieter. It's got this like, it looks like eating properly and just eating multiple meals a day because that's what your body needs. It looks like actually sleeping and prioritizing rest. It looks like having one honest conversation instead of 10 really reactive ones, just because you're like in this cycle of intensity, right? It looks like letting something unfold rather than trying to force it, right? Like allowing, like the skill of allowing and letting things emerge, not trying to like look at the egg and like trying to crack it, like, come on, hatch egg, come on. Like, I want the outcome now, like nourishment is repetitive. And I've actually been saying to a lot of my clients recently, my one-to-one ladies, I'm like, you actually just need more repetition. Like, you can easily think you need to go out and create something brand fucking new, but you are literally sitting on gold and you just need to get better at repeating what you're doing right now and just do it over and over and over and over again, right? And get better and better and better at it. Like, not go and create and build something completely new, right? So, and this is especially true if you're someone that has an identity around being like decisive, capable, fast moving, like you are just that person. You're like that bitch where you're like, yes, I am this, like boom, 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 boom. Like I can just, right? Actually, sometimes for those of you that are like that, slowing down can actually be a form of maturity. It can be a form of like actually growing, right? And it can be the body saying like, we actually can't sustain ourselves on adrenaline anymore. It looks like, I don't know, 3 coffees in the morning before you've had a scrap of food and then like not eating till 1 o'clock and being like, well, I'm not really even hungry. I can't even feel my appetite, right? Well, your body is used to 3 coffees a day before noon and no food. And it's used to being jacked up on like caffeine and adrenaline. Like, of course you're not hungry. Your body's in a state of like jacked up adrenaline, right? Your appetite's there. It's just buried underneath that set of behaviors, right? So it's like it can feel like almost nourishment is a bit simple, a bit boring, a bit vanilla. There's a lot to be said about how powerful that is, right? It's got this kind of like ability to actually build your capacity. And that is what I would say the number one thing that my women need when you come to me is to build your capacity and to be guided. And how the fuck do I do that? Like, that is one of the number one things. And that is what being coached and held is really supportive in, because I could coach you on so many different themes in your life. Like, there's so many places we can go, right? My expert knowledge is on human behavior, patterns, right? Relationships, like helping you understand yourself, allowing you to slow down. What that skill does is allow you to feel and build your capacity, right? Rather than just be like running really fast and overriding yourself. Me and Lola, who, if you're a podcast listener and you know I have a co-podcast with my best friend Lola Fayemi. We have something called the Juicy Podcast, and maybe you know me through that. So we've had that project for the last few years. We have this kind of ongoing conversation about the sheep and what the sheep. I don't know if you've ever seen the meme online. It's like a reel, and it's basically like a sheep that is trapped in a ditch. And some people pull the sheep out. So they get the sheep free and it runs off, and then it does like a circle U-turn and then just runs straight back in the ditch, right? What that represents to me is we can cultivate like, you know, all of this freedom and nourishment and all these things, and then we can just throw ourselves into the ditch and find ourselves in this like intense situation where we're stuck and we're just burnt out and we need to be rescued and someone needs to come and help us because we're just like stuck, right? That kind of thing. It reminds me a bit of that. Like, the sheep is free to just wander off, eat some grass, nourish itself, and it does the opposite and just jumps into a ditch. And sometimes for me, if I've been like a little too slow or I've been just like steady for a while, I'll start getting that itch of like, oh, it's time to fuck some shit up. I need to go and like, I need some intensity. And I'll, you know, it's the kind of thing where you'd like go and pick a fight, or you go and do like a really intense set of socializing and you just have no space, and then you like crash and collapse after it, like that kind of thing. I call it sheep behavior. I'm like, is this a sheep? Like, watch that sheep. Me and Lola say to each other, like, watch that sheep. Watch that sheep. And then I just have the sheep in my head of like, oh, I just did it, didn't I? I just fucking ran into the ditch. And as you can tell, as I'm saying this, there's sort of very little shame in what I'm saying. Like, we are still gonna choose intensity sometimes because we're human and we're wired to, and like, we love it. So it's not like you just start choosing a nourished, simple life and it's easy. It's like, no, you're going to have moments of temptation where you're just like, I just want to blow all of this goodness and all of this stability I've cultivated and all of this like nourishment. I'm feeling so filled up. I just want to go and spend it, like put it all on the black. Like, we are just so likely to do that sometimes. And it doesn't happen anywhere near as often, because you know that nourishment starts to feel so much better. Okay. So nourishment actually creates the conditions where you can build your capacity. And that's actually what I find that most of you want. You want to have the capacity for more in your life, right? Whether that's more love, more money, more joy, more creativity, more connection with your loved ones, more of the dreams you want. Like, you want more capacity to do more and to have more. That is like kind of deeply what people want. And there is such a fear of like, well, what will happen when I slow down? But actually creating the conditions where you can like hold the life that you're trying to build is such a precious thing. And I love guiding and supporting women here, because we really do need help in this area. It is a hard area to master. It is. There's a lot of shame here. There's a lot of you that will say to me, I feel ashamed when I slow down. I have to face myself and feel myself. And I'm like really worried I'm losing momentum and I'm becoming passive and I'm falling behind and everything's falling apart. And like, I panic when I slow down. That's really common, right? You've built this identity around certain things. And then suddenly you're slowing down and you're like, who the fuck am I when I'm not intense and I'm doing all this stuff, right? Again, it's that body saying we just can't live like this anymore, but there's still an identification with the old way. So there's a transition, right? Like, and I'm very much still transitioning. And this has been going on for a long time, where I'm like, I'm really learning how to live very, very differently, right? So for me, there's been quite a few seasons of my life where intensity has felt like purpose. And I've made some big moves. I've made some like big, very dramatic, very sort of sudden life moves. And interestingly now, I think I've said this before, like, I don't think I could do it. I think I just would be like so afraid of the physical cost and the cost on every level. Like, I've so learned this lesson through the trials and tribulations of life, that to make a big sudden move right now would be very unlikely. I would be very unlikely to do it, because I really value my nourished, steady, stable life. I have worked my fucking ass off to have this life. Like, I've got my knees for this life in a way that has been daily, and it has been really hard at moments. I would not give this up. You couldn't really make me give this up, right? It's earned. This life has been earned. And There, of course, are quieter seasons where, focusing on nourishment has felt underwhelming. And I've been panicked and fearful of like, oh my God, especially, in this rebuilding my business season, my business used to feel so different, so much more intense. And now it feels different, and I look at like the intimacy and the coherence I have in my life and the stability that's here. And even in my relationship. And it's like, it's not intensity that's created any of this. It's actually nourishment. It's small, steady steps, right? So um, I just believe if you want to play the long game and you want to do the long haul, right? And it's not saying there's never going to be intense moments, right? Like I want to have a baby in the next year, and I'm sure that is going to bring some intensity to it. That is just naturally part of the process of bringing a child into the world. But that will be one area of my life. The rest of my life, the plan is to have it more steady and stable than it's ever been. So it's not like every single area of life is going to be going through this intensity, right? There's a way that the stability and the foundation and the nourished parts are there to support the natural flows that come with life versus let me go out and find intensity just to add pressure to my life, right? That was me, like a fucking intensity hunter. Okay. And, I'm not going to go too much into this now, but there's a lot of links here to the way we grew up and the kind of intensity we grew up in. And if you are hardwired for that and you grew up in that, this can be a real journey of really retraining your system that there's safety and steadiness, like truly safety and steadiness. And you can actually build amazing things from a more steady place. Like I think a lot of you don't really believe that. Like, can I really build a beautiful life and the things I want in a business from a steady foundation? Like, can I really do that? The answer is yes, you can. You absolutely can. If you don't have the skills yet, like come and learn the skills, right? Like learn from someone that's doing it in the way you admire and you're like, yes, like whether that's somebody else or you feel that with me, like that is the thing to pay attention to. Like, is the person in front of me that I want to help me and guide me, are they living the life in the way that I deeply desire, right? Do they have access to something that I deeply want? We can be very drawn to very intense kinds of people. And I get a lot of women in my practice who are like, I was very drawn to growth in an intense way. And I discovered along the way that it was far too destabilizing for me. I'm very, very sensitive. This was my experience as well. And they find when we work together, there's like a softness, a potent softness, and really like held space and really precise guidance where you can actually unfold and open in a way that's really helpful, because it's not like force and pressure and intensity is forcing you, right? And sort of taking you, in my world, we call it out of range, where you're just like almost in a survival state, bracing. Like a lot of people that do this deep work don't realize that sometimes that's actually where you are. And it can take a lot to like, sometimes I have to retrain my ladies that it's okay that this isn't super, super intense and we can take our time. And actually they realize over time how much more they can hold and how much more capacity they have because they're not rushing and pressurizing themselves to like get the breakthrough, let's fucking go, kind of nail the pattern. Like, no, actually it kind of unfolds. And if you listen to the last episode I released with Arabella, like her journey is so gorgeous of steadiness over 5 years and like what actually became possible for her when she was taking it easy, right? And like not taking it easy because there were parts of the journey that were really confronting, and she had to, as you hear in her story, like she had to really, really look very deeply within herself and really back some of the deep dreams she had and kind of make hard decisions. It's not like there won't be big decisions to make in life, but they can be made from a completely different place. And that's really what I'm here for, right? I really believe that. So this isn't about removing intensity from your life. Life is intense sometimes. We can't predict what's around the corner. But I think there is moments for life to, like, there's appropriate moments where life is meant to be intense, like having a baby as an example, or like a loved one being unwell. Like I have a father an elderly father who's not well, and like that's intense sometimes. And we go through these cycles where I'm just like, like it's tough to navigate when it starts getting really, really intense. But part of the ability to tolerate that and not panic and try and make quick decisions in those moments and be able to sort of remain steady during the squeeze of those times is because the rest of life is well held. And I'm living in a life at a size I can hold it, right? I'm not trying to live beyond my means, let's say, energetically, financially, all those things. So when those waves roll in, I'm able to surf, right? I'm not under the wave, I'm surfing. If I fall off and I'm under the wave for a moment, I know I'm going to be all right, right? It doesn't mean it's easy. It's not, right? And any of you that are dealing with any kind of, my father has Alzheimer's, it's a really fucking tough journey, right? And, it comes with so many sort of unexpected twists and turns, but intensity is not my default. Sustainability is my default. So that means that I'm approaching that situation with a sustainability lens, right? Like, how can we make decisions in a way that thinks about long term and thinks about everybody as holistic human beings? We're not like rushing and panicking and squeezing and forcing ourselves to kind of, the journey of Alzheimer's, as an example, is a journey of unknowns. Like, you just don't know what's around the corner. And I've never lived through this. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. So let's give myself a bit of grace and spaciousness to take it step by step, right? So the question is, like, for you, what are you building your life on, right? Is it adrenaline and being jacked up and chasing intensity, or is it capacity building, like sustainable living, right? What are you building your life on, right? Really think about that. And, if you are building it in an intense way and that's working for you, that's also great. Like that, it really may work for some people. And so this might not be for you, but if you're listening to this, and I sense this because most of the women that I speak to and I've coached, like, you're all kind of like, oh, this is like, oh, I'm a bit addicted to this other way, but I do know that there's this other way because I've seen it and I want it for myself, right? That is most of you. You kind of like, the old way is not working for you anymore, but you haven't quite stepped into the new way, okay? So if you're in this shifting season right now, right, and like, nourishment is more important to you than momentum, or you want it to be more important to you and you want to make that shift, and there's this big adjustment, you can be like, this is going to be an adjustment, right? And you want expert help as you navigate this, right? This is my jam. This is the process that I have, is guiding women. We start off with this 75-minute deep dive, and this is really where this is like, we get to really sit together and look at what is really happening for you in your life, right? What are some of these core patterns? Like, what are the things that are running the show? What is the deeper thing that you want that maybe it feels out of reach, or it's in reach and you want to go for it, but some of these patterns need to be remapped, right? In this deep dive session, we get a really clear picture on like what is not working, like what needs addressing, okay? And then I'm able to map for you my recommendation, like how I would work with you on this, what I would recommend. And I'm able to give you a really bespokely designed map for your journey ahead. And it gives you a really clear picture of like what the one-to-one work would look like if we were to work together on a more deeper level. And my clients really will rave about these sessions. It's sort of like becomes really clear of like what's possible, that there is a really clear solution to some of the things that you might feel really stuck on. So if you're listening to this and you really feel like you're in this season where there's a threshold moment where you're like, I am shifting, I don't want to navigate this alone, I'm really clear that support would really, really, really help me. And I want to give it to myself. I'm worthy of it. I want to give it to myself. I feel like this is a next step that would be extremely like year changing if I was to do this now. This is a great moment. Book your deep dive, book your 75-minute deep dive. These sessions are paid sessions. So it's £111. And if you decide to join the container, you will then get that credited to the deeper work. Okay. And if you have any questions about that, please always feel free to Ask me. Okay, this has been such a joy, and I'm so glad that I got to do this in my little farmhouse retreat in the middle of my birthday week. What a pleasure. And I'm just hearing some commotion outside, so perfect time to wrap this up. I hope that you're having a gorgeous, gorgeous week. And you know what? It's March and it's spring here in the UK, and we're about to cross the threshold from winter into spring on the 21st this weekend, spring solstice, my favorite time of year. So I'm just wishing you blessings for that. Like, what are the green shoots in your life that are coming out of the ground? And, how are you nurturing those? Okay. All right, my loves. Take it easy. Love ya. And we'll speak next week.